She was left for dead after refusing a marriage. But one human soldier had other plans, HFY. The council hall was carved from black stone and cold metal, built to make anyone who stood inside feel small. The ceiling rose high above, lost in shadow, while long lights glowed faintly along the walls. At the center of the floor stood a single figure, thin and injured, yet standing straight despite the pain. Lyra kept her eyes forward. Her wrists were bound, her clothing torn and stained from the long walk through the city. She could feel blood drying along her side where a guard had struck her earlier. Still, she did not kneel. Around her sat the elders of her world, their bodies tall and armored, their faces hidden behind rigid masks of rank and tradition. They had already decided her fate long before she was brought here. This meeting was not about justice, it was about obedience. One of the elders leaned forward. His voice echoed through the chamber, sharp and heavy. "You were chosen," he said. "The bond would have strengthened your bloodline. You were commanded to accept." Lyra finally spoke. Her voice was weak but steady. "I was ordered to give up my life," she said. "Not my body, not my future, my life." A murmur spread through the hall, disapproval, anger. Shame not for what had been done to her but for her refusal to submit. Another elder rose. "You reject tradition, you reject survival. The union was necessary. The warlord you refused holds power beyond this city. Your choice threatens us all." Lyra lifted her chin. "Then let him threaten you, I will not belong to him." Silence followed. Then the verdict came, cold and final. "She is cast out, her name is erased. By decree she is already dead." Guards seized her arms and dragged her from the chamber. She did not scream, she did not beg. She only closed her eyes as the massive doors shut behind her, sealing away the only world she had ever known. Hours later, she was thrown from a transport into the open wasteland beyond the city's shield. The ground was cracked and dry, the air thin and burning. The transport lifted away without pause, leaving her alone under a sky that offered no mercy. Lyra tried to stand. Pain shot through her side and she fell back onto the sand. Her breathing became shallow. The sun above was already draining what little strength she had left. She knew this land. No one survived here for long. As the hours passed, her thoughts grew slow. She remembered her childhood, the lessons of obedience, the warnings given to every young girl of her kind. Submit or be erased. She wondered if she had made the wrong choice. The thought faded as darkness crept into her vision. Far above the surface, a small human vessel moved silently across orbit. It was not a warship, but it carried weapons all the same. Its mission was simple: observe, record, avoid contact. Inside the command deck, Captain Rowan Hale studied a glowing screen. He had been on dozens of assignments like this, watching distant civilizations from the shadows, reporting back to command. He had learned to keep emotion out of his work. Most of the time, it was easy. Then an alert flashed across his display. "Unidentified life signal," a technician said. "Surface level, weak but stable," Rowan frowned. "That zone is uninhabited." "Supposed to be," the technician replied. "Signal is organic, not native fauna." Rowan leaned closer. The readings were strange. Not human, but not fully unknown either. He hesitated for only a moment before giving the order. "Bring us down. Quiet approach." Another officer turned toward him. "Captain, protocol says we don't interfere." Rowan did not look away from the screen. "Protocol also says we document anomalies. This is one." The vessel descended through the atmosphere, shields low, engines muted. A storm was forming below, sand and wind beginning to rise. Time was running out. They found her lying half buried in the sand, barely moving. Her skin was pale, marked with patterns that shifted faintly as her heart struggled to keep beating. Rowan stepped down from the ramp, heat pressing against his armor. "She's alive," someone said over the comm. Rowan knelt beside her. He had seen wounded soldiers, refugees, even victims of alien warfare. Something about her stillness struck him harder than expected. "Prep a med pod," he ordered. Now, a crew member hesitated. "Captain, if the locals see this." "They won't," Rowan said. "Move." They lifted her carefully, rushing her into the ship as the storm broke across the wasteland. The hatch sealed just as sand slammed against the hull. Inside the medical bay, machines hummed as they worked to stabilize her. Rowan watched silently as her vitals slowly improved. Her injuries told a clear story: beaten, abandoned, meant to die. Species unknown, the medic said, but physiology is compatible enough. She'll live. Rowan let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "Keep her hidden," he said. "No external logs." That decision sealed more than just her fate. When Lyra woke, she expected pain. She expected darkness. What she did not expect was light that did not burn her eyes and air that did not choke her lungs. She tried to move and felt restraints, gentle but firm. Panic rose in her chest. Her eyes snapped open. The room was smooth and white, filled with soft sounds and glowing panels. Figures moved nearby, tall but shaped differently than her people. Their faces were uncovered. Their eyes were focused on her, not with hunger or control, but with concern. She tried to speak. Her throat was dry. One of them stepped closer, a male, judging by voice tone. He spoke slowly, carefully. "You're safe," he said. "You're on a human ship." The word meant nothing to her. She only knew that she was alive when she should not be. "Why?" she whispered. "Why am I here?" The man hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because someone tried to leave you for dead," he said, "and we found you first." She closed her eyes again, overwhelmed. For the first time since her refusal, tears slid down her face. Elsewhere, far from the ship, the council discovered traces in the wasteland, tracks where none should be, energy marks not of their own making. An elder stood in silence as reports came in. "She may have survived," a guard said. The elder's voice was calm but filled with quiet fury. "Then she is no longer just a failure," he said. "She is a problem." Orders were sent, ships were prepared, the hunt had begun. On the human vessel, Captain Rowan Hale stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the distant world below. He knew what his choice meant. He had crossed a line his commanders would not easily forgive. Behind him, an alarm sounded softly. Not a warning yet, just a notice. Unidentified signals entering the system. Rowan straightened. "So it begins," he murmured. And far below, a woman who had been declared dead slept under human protection, unaware that her survival was about to change far more than her own fate. Lyra slept longer than she expected. When she woke again, the room felt warmer, quieter. The restraints were gone. Soft light filled the space, steady and calm. She sat up slowly, her body sore but no longer broken. A thin blanket rested over her legs. For a moment, fear returned. She was not in the wasteland. She was not in the council hall. She was somewhere else entirely. A door slid open with a low sound. A woman stepped inside, wearing simple clothing instead of armor. She carried a small tray and stopped when she saw Lyra awake. "You're up," the woman said gently. "That's good." Lyra watched her closely. "Are you my guard?" she asked. The woman smiled faintly. "No, I'm a medic. My name is Elen." Names spoken without rank felt strange. Lyra nodded slowly. Elen placed the tray beside the bed. "Water, nutrients, your body needs both." Lyra hesitated, then drank. The liquid was cool and clean, better than anything she remembered. "Why am I still alive?" Lyra asked quietly. Elen did not answer right away. "Because someone chose to help you," she said, "and because you're stronger than you think." Later that cycle, Captain Rowan Hale entered the medical bay. He did not wear his helmet. His uniform was simple, marked only by a small symbol on his chest. He stopped a short distance from Lyra, careful not to appear threatening. "My crew tells me you're stable," he said. "That's good news." Lyra studied his face. Humans looked fragile compared to her people, no protective plates, no natural armor, yet there was something firm in his eyes. "You saved me," she said. Rowan nodded. "Yes." "Why?" she asked again. Rowan leaned against the wall. Because leaving you there would have been wrong. That answer confused her more than anything else. Wrong was a word her people used only when rules were broken, not when lives were destroyed. You risk punishment, she said. For me? Yes, Rowan replied. I do. They sat in silence. Machines hummed softly around them. What will you do with me? Lyra asked. Rowan answered honestly. I don't know yet. That truth scared her, but not as much as lies would have. Over the next few days, Lyra learned about the ship. It moved quietly through space, always changing course. Humans passed by her door, some curious, some wary, but none cruel. No one struck her. No one demanded obedience. She learned that humans did not rule their soldiers through fear alone. Rowan argued with his officers openly. Decisions were questioned. Voices were raised, then lowered again. It felt chaotic but alive. Not everyone agreed with Rowan's choice. She's not our responsibility, said the navigation officer during a closed meeting. If the council finds out, they'll accuse us of theft. Or worse, Rowan folded his arms. She's a sentient being, that makes her our responsibility. Our mission is observation, another officer said, not rescue. Rowan's voice hardened. Observation does not mean watching someone die when you can stop it. Silence followed. No one liked the risk, but no one challenged him further. Lyra listened from the corridor outside, understanding enough to feel the tension. Guilt pressed against her chest. These humans were paying a price for her survival. That price became clear sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected movement at the edge of the system. Ships, not human. Rowan stood on the bridge, staring at the display. The signal patterns were familiar now. They're looking for her, the technician said. Active scans, military grade. Rowan closed his eyes briefly. How long until they find us? Hours, maybe less. The alliance with Lyra's people was fragile, built on silence and convenience. Harboring a condemned citizen could break it completely. Rowan turned toward the crew. We don't hand her over. A few exchanged uneasy looks. Captain, the navigation officer said, that could start a conflict. Rowan nodded. I know. He went to see Lyra himself. She sensed the change the moment he entered. His shoulders were tense, his steps heavier. They're coming, she said before he could speak. Yes, Rowan replied. They think you're still theirs. Lyra stood slowly, gripping the edge of the bed. Then give me back. Rowan's eyes snapped to her. No, you don't understand, she said. They will not stop. They will destroy you to make an example. Rowan stepped closer. We understand more than you think. Lyra's voice trembled. I was already dead to them. You don't need to die with me. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke softly. We don't decide who deserves to live based on convenience. That sentence stayed with her long after he left. The alien fleet closed in, their presence heavy and threatening. They did not fire. They sent a message instead. Return the asset or face consequences. Rowan responded with a single transmission. She is not an asset, she is under human protection. The reply was immediate, cold, final. You have no authority, she belongs to us. Rowan looked around the bridge. Humans don't believe people can belong to anyone. Weapons powered up across the ship, defensive systems activated. The crew moved with quiet focus. Lyra watched from a secure chamber, heart racing. She had seen battles before, but never one fought for her sake. The alien fleet advanced, surrounding the human vessel. Massive shadows filled the view screens. Rowan opened a channel again, his face appearing on their displays. This ends now, he said. Withdraw. The alien commander answered with laughter. You will learn your place. The channel cut. Moments later, the first shot was fired. Energy tore through space, missing the human ship by meters. Rowan did not hesitate. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Disable targeting systems. No lethal force unless necessary. The ship moved like nothing Lyra had ever seen, slipping between attacks, striking with precision. Humans did not overwhelm their enemy with size. They overwhelmed them with control. Still, they were outnumbered. A blast rocked the hull. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. In the chaos, Lyra made a choice. She accessed the console in her chamber. Human systems were different, but logic was universal. She input alien command phrases she had memorized since childhood, ones never meant to be spoken by her kind. The screen responded. She hesitated only once. Then she transmitted. Inside the alien fleet, confusion spread. Orders conflicted, target locks failed, defensive grids collapsed. Rowan stared at the sudden shift in the battle. "What just happened?" an officer asked. Rowan's eyes widened as he realized the source. "She's helping us," he said. The fleet faltered, then pulled back slightly, reassessing. But the damage was done. Every channel in the system lit up with new signals. Neutral observers, traders, watchers, they had all seen it. A human ship defending a condemned woman against her own people. The alliance was broken, and Lyra was no longer invisible. As the enemy ships retreated beyond immediate range, Rowan allowed himself a single breath of relief. But he knew the truth. This was not over. It was only beginning. The silence after the battle felt heavier than the fighting itself. The human ship drifted through space, its engines quiet, its hull marked with fresh scars. Emergency lights glowed along the corridors while crew members moved with careful speed, repairing damage and checking systems. Rowan stood on the bridge, hands resting on the command rail. His face was calm, but his thoughts were not. The alien fleet had withdrawn, but not because it was defeated. They had pulled back to think, to plan. That made them more dangerous. Behind him, officers spoke in low voices. "We lost 2 external sensors," one said. "Shields are holding, but barely." Rowan nodded. "Get us moving. Irregular course. No straight lines." As the ship adjusted its path, Rowan turned his attention to the internal feed. One image held his focus longer than the others. Lyra sat alone in a secured room, her posture stiff, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She looked smaller now, not because she was weak, but because the weight of what she had done was settling on her. Rowan left the bridge and made his way to her. When he entered, Lyra looked up at once. She had been expecting him. Her eyes were sharp, filled with both fear and resolve. "You shouldn't have done that," Rowan said, not unkindly. "I know," she replied, "but I could not watch you fight blind." "You exposed yourself," he said. "Every system out there knows who you are now." She nodded. "I was erased once. I cannot be erased again." Rowan studied her for a moment. "What you did saved lives, but it also changed everything." "That already happened when you pulled me from the sand," she said. He gave a faint smile. "Fair point." Before either could speak again, an alert sounded across the ship. Not a weapon warning, a transmission request. Rowan turned toward the door. "Stay here." He returned to the bridge as the screen lit up with multiple signals. Not hostile, not friendly either. Neutral channels. Merchants, observers, independent stations. They were watching. A message came through, broadcast across open space. Not from the Alien Council, not from a military source. It was from a trade coalition, one that had remained silent for decades. The message was simple. "Human vessel, confirm status. Is the individual known as Lyra under your protection by choice?" Rowan answered without hesitation. "Yes." Another message followed from a different source. "Is it true she was condemned without trial?" Rowan paused only a second. "Yes." The silence that followed felt like a held breath across the system. Then came another message, this one sharp and angry. The Alien Council had broken their silence. "You are spreading falsehoods," their representative said. "The individual is a criminal." She rejected lawful command. Rowan's reply was steady. "She refused forced union. That is not a crime under human law." "You are not human," the council voice snapped. "Your law does not apply." Rowan leaned forward. "It does when human lives are involved." Lyra watched the exchange from her chamber, hearing every word. Her heart pounded. She had never heard authority challenged like this. The council did not argue. They punished. They erased. Now, for the first time, they were being questioned. More messages flooded in. Some cautious, some curious, some openly supportive. The council realized too late that silence had protected them, and now silence was gone. The alien fleet returned hours later, not to attack but to block. They positioned themselves between the human ship and the nearest jump point. Rowan studied the display. They're trying to trap us. They won't fire, an officer said. Too many witnesses. Then they'll try something else, Rowan replied. That something came in the form of a demand broadcast publicly. Surrender the individual, the council declared. She will be judged properly. The humans will be allowed to depart unharmed. Lyra's chest tightened. Proper judgment meant nothing. It meant a quiet execution and a story rewritten afterward. Rowan responded calmly. No, you are escalating, the council warned. Rowan's voice hardened. No, you already did. The council tried a different tactic. They released old records, edited footage, altered accounts. They painted Lyra as unstable, dangerous, ungrateful, a traitor to her own people. Lyra watched the lies spread across the feeds. She felt herself shrinking again, becoming that frightened figure in the council hall. Rowan noticed her silence and returned to her chamber. They're controlling the story, she said before he spoke. For now, Rowan replied. I don't want your people to suffer because of me, she said. They will turn others against you. Rowan crossed his arms. We've faced worse than bad press. She looked up at him. You don't understand. My people believe authority is truth. If the council says something enough times, it becomes real. Rowan considered that. Then we don't argue with words alone. He left the room and went straight to the data core. Hours later, the human ship sent out a new transmission. Not a statement, not an accusation, evidence, unedited recordings, medical scans, records of forced unions, testimonies from others who had disappeared, proof of erased names and silent executions. The council tried to shut it down. They failed. The data spread faster than any fleet. Across nearby systems, individuals began asking questions, some quietly, some loudly. The council's authority cracked just a little. That was enough to frighten them. The alien fleet moved again. This time, weapons powered up. Rowan watched the readings climb. They're going to fire, he said. They can't, an officer replied. Too many eyes, Rowan shook his head. They believe fear will outweigh witnesses. He opened a channel broadcasting to all. If you attack us, Rowan said, every system will see who you truly are. The council's response was cold. Then they will learn the cost of defiance. The first shot tore through space, striking the human ship's shields head-on. The impact threw crew members from their feet. Consoles sparked. Alarms screamed. Rowan stayed standing. Return fire, target weapons only. The human ship responded, precise and controlled. Alien cannons went dark one by one, disabled without destruction. Still, the enemy pressed forward. Another blast struck, deeper this time. The hull groaned. In her chamber, Lyra was thrown against the wall. Pain flared through her side, old wounds reopening. She struggled to her feet, breathing hard. She knew something Rowan did not. The alien fleet was not acting alone. She accessed the console again, hands shaking, and scanned deeper. Hidden signals appeared, faint but clear. Reinforcements. A larger force was waiting beyond sensor range, ready to arrive once the humans were weakened. Lyra did not hesitate. She opened a channel, bypassing protocol, and spoke directly to the bridge. They are buying time, she said. More ships are coming, many more. Rowan's eyes widened. How long? Minutes, she replied. Rowan made a decision instantly. Prepare jump. We can't, the navigator said. They're blocking the route. Rowan looked at the tactical display, then at the damage reports. We don't need the route, he said. We need space. He turned back to Lyra. Can you disrupt their coordination again? She swallowed. Yes. But it will expose everything. There will be no doubt left. Rowan met her gaze. Do it. Lyra closed her eyes and transmitted one final command. This one carried her full identity, her lineage, her voice. Across the alien fleet, systems locked. Command channels froze. Her message echoed through their networks. "I was condemned for refusing to belong to another," her voice said. "I refuse still." The effect was immediate. Confusion spread. Orders failed. Some ships powered down entirely. Then the reinforcements arrived. Massive shapes emerged from the void, their presence overwhelming. For a moment it seemed like the end. Then something unexpected happened. Neutral ships moved in, traders, observers, even a few old rivals of the Council. They did not attack. They positioned themselves between the fleets. The message was clear. This was no longer a private matter. Rowan watched the shifting balance and allowed himself a slow breath. The Council had lost control. The battle did not end with victory. It ended with a pause. A fragile one. The alien fleet withdrew again, this time under watch. The human ship jumped away, engines burning hot, hull damaged but intact. In the quiet that followed, Rowan sat heavily in his chair. They had survived, but the cost was only beginning to show. Lyra stood alone, staring at the stars beyond the viewport. She was no longer just a woman who had refused a marriage. She was a spark. And sparks, she knew, could start fires no one could control. The jump tore through the human ship like a wound being forced shut. Space twisted, then released them into a silent stretch of darkness far from any trade route. The engines groaned as they powered down, overheating alarms echoing through the hull. Rowan did not move for several seconds. He waited until the shaking stopped, until the stars outside settled into still points of light. Only then did he exhale. "We made it," someone said quietly. "For now," Rowan replied. Damage reports flooded in. Structural breaches on 2 lower decks. Power fluctuations across life support. Several crew members injured, one critically. Rowan pushed himself up from the command chair despite the pain in his side from the last impact. "Medical teams to Deck 4. Seal non-essential sections." As the crew moved, Rowan felt the weight of exhaustion settle deep into his bones. He had made choices that could not be undone. The Alliance was gone. Human command would demand answers, and the Alien Council would not forget this humiliation. In the medical bay, Lyra sat on a narrow bench while Elen worked on her reopened wound. The pain was sharp but familiar. She did not cry out. "You should have stayed still," Elen said gently. "I could not," Lyra replied. "If I had done nothing, more would have died." Elen paused, then nodded. "You saved lives, that matters." Lyra looked away. "On my world, it never did." Rowan entered the medical bay moments later. His uniform was torn, a thin line of blood running along his temple. When Lyra saw him, she stood up too quickly. "You are injured," she said. "So are you," Rowan replied. They shared a brief, tired look. No words were needed to understand that they had both crossed a point of no return. Later, Rowan stood before a secure channel, facing the distant image of human command. The faces on the screen were stern, controlled. "Captain Hale," one of them said, "you are aware of the situation you have created." "Yes," Rowan replied. "You violated observation protocol, interfered in internal affairs, and engaged hostile forces." "Yes," Rowan said again. There was a pause. "Explain." Rowan did not defend himself. He did not soften the truth. "I found a sentient being left to die for refusing ownership. I chose not to look away." The council members exchanged glances. "You may have triggered widespread instability," one said. Rowan nodded. "Stability built on fear is not peace." The channel went silent for a long moment. Finally, a voice spoke. "You are suspended from active command pending review." Rowan felt a strange sense of relief. "Understood." The channel closed. Rowan sat alone afterwards, staring at nothing. He had expected anger. He had not expected the quiet. It was worse. Lyra felt the change in the ship. The tension shifted, no longer sharp with danger but heavy with uncertainty. She approached Rowan in the observation deck where he stood watching distant stars. "You lost your command," she said softly. "I haven't lost it yet," Rowan replied, "but I probably will." "I am sorry," Lyra said. If you had not found me, Rowan raised a hand. Stop. I don't regret saving you. She searched his face. Even now, especially now, he said. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to believe him. News continued to spread across nearby systems. The data released by the humans could not be erased. Individuals from Lyra's world began to speak in whispers, then in quiet groups. Some denied everything. Others asked questions they had never dared ask before. The Alien Council responded with force. Protests were crushed. Communications restricted. Several dissidents disappeared overnight. Lyra saw the reports and felt guilt burn in her chest. This is because of me, she said. Rowan shook his head. This is because of them. Still, the cost was real. One cycle later, a message reached the human ship, not from the Council. From someone else, a coded signal, old and nearly forgotten. Lyra recognized the pattern immediately, her breath caught. It is from my people, she said, but not the Council. Rowan nodded. We decrypted it. It's a group calling themselves the Quiet Dawn. Lyra closed her eyes. They were only a rumor, those who helped others escape. I thought they were all gone. The message was short. We saw you speak. We are not alone anymore. Lyra's hands trembled. They are rising, she whispered, and the Council will kill them. Rowan felt the familiar pull of duty, sharp and dangerous. What do you want to do? Lyra looked up at him. For the first time, her eyes were not filled with fear. I want to go back, she said. Rowan did not answer immediately. He knew what that meant. A return would not be quiet. It would be an open challenge. That would put you in direct danger, he said. I was born in danger, she replied. At least now I choose it. Rowan considered the risks, the consequences, the orders he no longer held. Then he thought of the wasteland, of a woman left to die because she said no. I can't take a fleet, he said slowly. I don't need a fleet, Lyra said. I need witnesses. Human Command responded sooner than expected. Another secure channel opened. This time the faces were different. You are no longer under arrest, a commander said, but you are not cleared for combat operations. Rowan frowned. Then why contact me? Because, the commander continued, what you exposed cannot be unseen. Officially, we remain neutral. Unofficially, we will not stop you. Rowan understood. It was as much permission as he would get. The ship changed course once more. As they approached the edge of Lyra's home system, tension returned. The Council's patrols were everywhere. Communications were tightly controlled. Lyra prepared herself, standing before a recorder in the ship's communication bay. Rowan watched from behind the glass. You don't have to do this, he said through the channel. I do, she replied. The recording went live across restricted frequencies, slipping through cracks the Council could not seal fast enough. Lyra spoke plainly. No anger, no threat. I was left to die because I refused to be owned, she said. I survived because strangers believed my life mattered. If you are afraid, you are not weak. If you question, you are not alone. The transmission cut as patrols closed in. Alarms sounded. Enemy ships moved to intercept. Rowan took the command chair once more, even without rank. Evasive course, he ordered. We get her out. The ship surged forward under heavy fire. Shields flared, systems strained. A direct hit struck the aft section. The ship lurched violently. Rowan was thrown forward, slamming into the console. Pain exploded through his chest. Captain, someone shouted. Rowan tried to stand. His vision blurred. Lyra felt the impact and ran toward the bridge, ignoring shouts to stop. She reached Rowan just as his knees buckled. He collapsed, breath shallow, blood spreading across his uniform. Rowan, she said, panic breaking through her control. Medical teams rushed in, pulling him away. As they worked, the ship jumped blindly, escaping into deep space by chance more than design. In the medical bay, Rowan lay still, machines surrounding him. Elen worked frantically. Lyra stood at the foot of the bed, hands clenched, fear tearing through her. This time, she was not the one left for dead, and she did not know if the human who saved her would wake again. Rowan did not wake for a long time. The ship drifted through quiet space, engines set to minimal output, systems running on backup power. Crew members spoke in whispers, as if loud voices might disturb the thin line holding their captain to life. Lyra stayed near the medical bay. She slept little, ate less. Each time the monitors shifted or a machine made a new sound, her heart jumped. She had faced death before, her own and others, but this was different. This time, the life at risk had chosen to protect her. Ellen moved carefully around the bed, adjusting settings, checking readings. After hours of silence, she finally spoke. "He's stable," she said softly, "but he took serious internal damage. His body is fighting." Lyra nodded, her throat tight. "Can he hear us?" Ellen hesitated. "Maybe, we don't know." Lyra stepped closer to the bed. Rowan's face looked pale, almost fragile without his usual calm strength. She remembered how he had stood between her and an entire fleet without hesitation. "You should not have done this for me," she whispered. "But I am glad you did." Outside the medical bay, the universe continued to change. The broadcast Lyra had sent could not be erased. Even though the Council tried to suppress it, fragments spread through private channels and hidden networks. People shared it in secret, passing it from one device to another. Quiet questions turned into quiet meetings. The Council responded with fear. Security forces were deployed across cities. Curfews were enforced. Any mention of Lyra's name was labeled treason. But the harder they pressed, the more cracks appeared. The quiet dawn grew. On the human ship, a new message arrived. This one was not encrypted. It was open, addressed directly to Lyra. "We are ready," it said. "We cannot win alone." Lyra read it twice, then closed her eyes. She knew what it meant. They were asking for something dangerous, something final. She went to Rowan's bedside again. "I cannot wait," she said quietly, unsure if he could hear. "They will die if I do nothing." Her hands shook as she made her decision. Human Command contacted the ship one final time. The tone was careful. "We will not deploy forces," the commander said, "but we will provide safe passage for civilians and observers. What happens next will be seen." Rowan's ship was repaired just enough to travel. The crew volunteered without being asked. No one spoke of orders anymore. They returned to Lyra's world not as soldiers but as witnesses. The ship emerged above the capital city in full view. It did not hide. It did not aim weapons. It broadcast everything. Lyra stood before the main viewport, looking down at the place that had condemned her. Her reflection stared back, no longer small, no longer afraid. "Begin transmission," she said. Across the planet, screens flickered to life. Lyra's image appeared, clear and unedited. "I was declared dead," she said, "but I am alive, and so are you." Security forces moved to shut down the signal, too late. "I do not ask you to fight," Lyra continued. "I ask you to choose. No one has the right to own another life." The Council responded with force. Defense platforms powered up, targeting the human ship. Before they could fire, neutral vessels entered orbit. Then more, old rivals, trade coalitions, independent worlds. They formed a silent ring around the planet. The message was clear. The Council hesitated. Inside the medical bay, Rowan's fingers twitched. Ellen noticed first. "Wait." The monitors shifted. Rowan drew a shallow breath on his own. "He's waking," she said. Lyra ran to his side just as his eyes opened. For a moment he looked confused, then he saw her. "You're still standing," he murmured. "So are you," Lyra replied, tears in her eyes. He tried to smile and failed. "Did we make it count?" She nodded. "They are listening." Outside, the Council's authority collapsed faster than anyone expected. Orders were refused. Platforms powered down. Members of the Council fled or surrendered. There was no great battle, no final explosion. There was something far more dangerous: change. Days later, Lyra stood before a crowd in the open air of her world for the first time without chains or guards. Humans watched from orbit not as rulers but as witnesses. "I am not your leader," Lyra said. "I am only proof that we can say no and live." The crowd did not cheer. They stood in silence, absorbing the weight of the moment. Rowan watched from the ship, arm in a sling, body still healing. He felt no pride, only quiet certainty. Humanity would be remembered for many things, but among the stars, one truth would endure. When someone was left for dead because they refused to surrender their life, a human chose to stand in the way. And that made all the difference. The days that followed were quiet but not peaceful. The council was gone, yet its shadow remained. Buildings still stood. Laws still existed. Fear did not vanish just because power changed hands. People walked carefully, watching one another, unsure who could be trusted and who still believed in the old ways. Lyra felt the weight of it every time she stepped outside. Some looked at her with hope, others with anger, a few with open hatred. She did not blame them. For generations, obedience had been the only way to survive. She stayed in a modest shelter near the city edge, refusing the grand halls that had once belonged to the council. She did not want distance. She wanted honesty. Rowan recovered slowly. His body healed faster than expected, but the pain lingered. He spent most of his time seated near a wide window aboard the ship, watching the planet below. He was no longer a captain in title, but the crew still looked to him without question. "You should rest," Elen said one morning. "I am resting," Rowan replied, "just not sleeping." "You're thinking too much," he smiled faintly. "That's nothing new." Human Command sent updates, careful and measured. Officially, they recognized no new government. Unofficially, they opened aid channels, medical support, food shipments, observers. They did not send soldiers. Lyra noticed that. "You could take control," she said to Rowan during one of her visits. "No one could stop you." Rowan shook his head. "That's exactly why we won't." She studied him. "On my world, power is taken when it is possible. On ours," Rowan replied, "power is questioned when it is easy." The quiet dawn emerged from the shadows, not as warriors but as organizers, teachers, healers. Those who had hidden others now stepped forward. They worked fast, knowing the moment was fragile. Still, resistance remained. One night, an explosion echoed through the lower city. A supply depot burned. Old loyalists claimed responsibility. They called Lyra a traitor, a symbol of weakness, a mistake that should have stayed dead. Lyra watched the smoke rise from a distance. "They will keep coming," she said. "Yes," Rowan replied. "Change scares people." "Some want me gone," she said quietly. Rowan met her gaze. "Do you want to leave?" She did not answer right away. "I thought about it," she admitted. "Living somewhere far away, safe, quiet." "And," Rowan asked, "what stopped you?" She looked toward the city. "If I leave, they win, not by force, by fear." Rowan nodded. "Then we stay visible." The next broadcast was different. Lyra did not speak alone. Beside her stood others, survivors, those who had escaped forced unions, families who had lost daughters and sons to silence. Even a few former officials who had chosen to speak instead of flee. "We are not replacing one council with another," Lyra said. "We are ending the idea that obedience is the same as peace." Some listened, others did not. But the word stayed. Weeks passed. Trade slowly resumed. Restrictions eased. Schools reopened, teaching history without erased names. For the first time, children asked questions without being punished for them. Rowan prepared to leave. The human ship could not remain forever. It was never meant to. Humanity had done what it came to do, even if by accident. On the final day, Rowan stood at the base of the ramp, looking down at Lyra. "You don't have to say goodbye," she said. "You could stay." Rowan smiled gently. "If I stay, they'll say this was a human victory, not yours." She nodded, understanding the truth of it. "You saved me," she said. "I don't know how to repay that." Rowan shook his head. "You already did. You lived." She hesitated, then spoke the question that had stayed unspoken for days. "Do you think it will last?" Rowan looked out at the city, at the movement, the uncertainty, the fragile hope. "No," he said honestly. "Not easily, not cleanly." She lowered her eyes. "But," he continued, "I think it will survive because people have seen another way." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lyra did something unexpected. She bowed her head, not in submission but in respect. "My life is my own," she said, "because you believed it was." Rowan returned the gesture in his own way, a simple nod. The ship lifted into the sky without ceremony. From orbit, Rowan watched the planet grow smaller. He felt no triumph, only a quiet sense of rightness. Humanity's name spread across nearby systems not as conquerors but as something else. Interferers, meddlers, protectors, those who stepped in when others stepped away. Back on the surface, Lyra stood before a gathering once more. No guards, no barriers. "I was left for dead," she said, "not because I was dangerous but because I refused to surrender myself." She paused, letting the words settle. "A human soldier chose to see me as a person, not a problem. The rest is what we choose to do with that chance." The crowd did not cheer. They stood taller. Far away, Rowan leaned back in his chair as stars stretched ahead. His career was uncertain, his future unclear. But he knew one thing. Somewhere in the universe, a woman who had been erased was now writing her own story, and humanity would never be able to pretend it did not matter.